What's going on, great people in the world? It's your guy, Nicholas Wilcox, alongside my guy, of course, partner in crime, number one fan overall, smooth and doing it, all baldy, all shiny. Tell him this is Johnny Main. Johnny, say what's up to the great people.
What up? What up? Just out here in the Northeast being a beast, getting ready for this windstorm we got getting ready to happen here. Yeah, you don't know nothing about that. I know. Yeah. So we're getting geared up for that right there. Getting some snow, but otherwise than that right there, man, week 14, been on an emotional roller coaster. Happy, sad, excited, mad, glad, bad. Like just everything, man. You name it. I've been it over the last 24 hours for various reasons, man. But I'm happy to be here tonight, man, to be able to kick some game and hopefully help some people, win a playoff game and maybe a little bit more here tonight, man. So what up?
Oh boy. Well, folks, we have an exciting show. Exciting show to get to because we are here. Week 15, the fantasy football show. Week 14, the reactions, the waiver wire for week 15. It's playoff time in the building. It's time to start sharpening our knives and get ready to stab each, metaphorically, stab your league mates to stand on top of the king of the mountain as you take over league championship winner. It's cutthroat season. But on a G-rated version, it's time to dance around your league mates as you float your way to a championship. We're here to help you guys out. Any questions? We're gonna get to everything we need to for week 15 when it comes to the waiver wire, comes to defensive streams. We're gonna talk about a few of our personal things as we get to a road to a title segment that we'll get to in a little while. And we'll get to you guys on that. But please feel free to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. If you listen to us on Spotify, we greatly appreciate that as well. We've been, again, more grateful to just be able to do this on a weekly basis for everybody. And we appreciate everybody's support all the time. And we're always open to critiques, open to business. If you guys have someone that you guys want to partner up in terms of allowing the show to flourish and partner up with us, let us know that too. We're always open to any and new opportunities that come our way. But in terms of week 15 goes, Johnny, I'm sure you want to get to it. You want to get to your old man segment first?
Yeah, man, I'll get my old man segment. And I'll start off. I can start off with the Pittsburgh Steelers as I normally would. Right. Big win this week. I say big win. Going against the Cleveland Browns. Obviously lost them on Thursday night a few weeks ago. But no George Pickens. Put me in a complete tizzy for my entire week 14. But obviously, man, wide receiver 2 has been a concern for us, man. We were able to come out on top of that one, but it's still something that I think needs to be addressed by this team during the offseason. I won't take all the meat off the bone, but I will highlight, a couple of things, man, for me. I freaking start Sam Darnold in DFS, man, and I'm feeling good. I'm messaging you. I'm like, is this the week? Is this the week where I get ready to get some of that Christmas bag money, man? And then Josh Allen shows up.
Yeah.
I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. You gotta be kidding me. That's insane. But that was also too, man. That was one of the things that I've been talking about all year long with the Buffalo Bills is that to quote Mike Tyson, everybody got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and they got punched in the mouth. And I think we've seen that the LA Rams, they doing exactly very similar to what they did last year. The end of the year, they're starting to get hot. Man, Puka freaking Nacua, bro.
Puka Nacua.
Man. Golly.
He wasn't the only receiver to pop off, but
I'm gonna leave some out there. I will talk about the Seattle Seahawks just because you have been a an Arizona Cardinals / Kyler Murray truther all year long. I like Kyler. He's one of my favorite players. Like,
you like taking jabs at me.
No.
I love it.
No. I'm not taking any jabs.
No, not at all. Yeah, no.
This is
I would
more,
never.
No, this is more about listen. This is just more about me feeling the way that I felt about the Seahawks and the Cardinals all year long. And like I said, I really felt like the Seahawks. Oh, my cat has decided to join me, Minka. I felt like the Seahawks were just a better football team, and they showed it. In that game, 30-18. Didn't really need a lot for Geno Smith. Zach Charbonnet. Wow. Big day. And then like Marvin Harris Jr. Like we also kind of talked about him a little bit, man. And it just, what a wasted second round pick. Now the season's over with. We can, fantasy season is really over with. What a wasted second round pick, man. And Marvin Harrison Jr. Like shame on all of us, man, for jumping the gun on him, man. I'm guilty on that. And then the last piece I'll talk about, man, before I leave you some is you and I both, man, we were like, hey, like we think the Bears have a chance to take this game against, the 49ers. What? Yeah. So, I could continue to go on, but like that, and I thought honestly too, man, I thought Monday Night Football, I thought the Cowboys really had a shot in that game, man. And I think the line was like what was it, 6.5 or 6 or something like that right there. But the Cowboys played really well, man. It's just, the Bengals are probably at this point, I think one of the best 5-win, probably the best 5-win team in the NFL at this point, man. So just a couple of my rants, man. Overall, obviously we got some other things we'll get to, but just kind of my take of week 14.
Love it. Noticing from week 14 was, just honestly think man, it was a weird week in some ways, but it also we had some phenomenal performances. So without further ado, we'll go to the top performers of the week, and they're listed below. We mentioned Josh Allen. I think I'll have to look back, and we'll have to look back on this, but I think he set a record for fantasy points in I think the most in a single game across all platforms, something like that. For a quarter.
Yeah.
So crazy. 6 total touchdowns overall. Like pretty handily was a QB1. Darnold was a QB1 until the 4:00 slate. So Sam Darnold had himself a phenomenal performance. And we'll lump Jefferson and Addison in there as well, because Jefferson was a wide receiver 3 on the week. Addison was a wide receiver 4 in the week. The Jefferson game, man, been predicted for a couple of weeks, finally happened. So about damn time. I'll just say that. Jamar Chase, dude. Like, if we were to look back on Jamar Chase, I think the process was still right. I'll be honest. I think the process was still right on Chase, because if you were able to get Chase at the turn, you got him along with a decent, Barkley, for instance, something like that, maybe. You were able to maybe do something like that because of how people were panicking towards the end of this, the regular, before the regular season started for the NFL. So I thought the process was still right. I still had Chase. Earlier in all the season, I said Chase would be my potential wide receiver 1 to finish wide receiver 1 overall. In my pick, and then all the contract stuff started talking, fluttering people, stuff like that. So it's but it's kudos to the connection, Burrow and Chase. Like, those guys go gangbusters, and I don't want to face Chase in any of my fantasy playoffs. So hopefully that's not happening down the road for me. Talking about misses as well, Juwan Jennings, wide receiver 6 overall, a guy that we should have been on a lot more during the off season. You know what I'm saying? Yes, go ahead.
Shout out UTGBO, college football playoff, and the number 1 ranked basketball team in the country. Go ahead, man.
All right, then. Okay. Say your shit. But yeah, wide receiver 6, this past week, Juwan Jennings. And look, he's, because of Ayuk and because of Debo not being as involved, this is what we get. So, again, him and Kittle, then Debo is just taking a big backseat. And it's unfortunate for the people like myself who got Debo in a few leagues that, again, despite him not performing well, did okay. But for people who really rely on Debo, he just has not come through so far, and hopefully that changes. But it is what it is. And then Juwan Johnson, who we had a question on the Sunday chat about him or Freiermuth and a couple other options, and we were like Juwan Johnson at first, and then we found out George Pickens was out.
I was Freiermuth all day. I was Freiermuth.
Freiermuth. Like you can start both of them, and for Juwan Johnson owners who were able to scoop him off the waiver wire and probably start, flash start him this past week. It was a great week. Tight end 3 overall. Nathan's got a question. He's asking, play 2 for the half-point PPR. He's got Juwan Jennings, just talked about him, McLaurin, or AJ Brown. I mean, you had to start AJ Brown. It's a must. I know it's Pittsburgh, but it's squeaky wheel narrative all over it this week. I know Pittsburgh's defense has been decent. Joey Porter most likely shadow him, but I feel like because of all this buzz that's happened, especially with the Carolina game, you look back at some of the tape that I watched back in some of that game, AJ Brown, there's so many times that he could have had easy. He wasn't the first option on when ciphering the defense for Hurts, but there was plenty of times where Hurts could have had AJ Brown easily over the middle for easy first downs. He missed a couple of shots with him downfield that he left. There was a lot of meat left on the bone from that game. So AJ Brown's definitely a solid guy that I'm starting this week. And then it's Commanders versus Saints. And then it's Juwan Jennings. The Niners are playing the Rams on Thursday. That's where things get tricky for me. I'm going to say McLaurin only because Washington has to get out to a lead in that game early on if we suspect McLaurin is going to be the guy. I know Juwan Jennings played really well, but Thursday night games tend to be a little bit more lower scoring, a little bit less pace. They tend to run the football a little bit more in those matchups. I'm not saying Juwan Jennings can't find himself getting there, but it's more about I think McLaurin can still give us a touchdown, maybe 2. Juwan Jennings still has it, but I'm going to go with McLaurin because I just think the matchup is better. I think divisional matchup between the Thursday game, potentially run the football a little bit more. They want to establish that for both teams. I'm just going to go McLaurin slightly. Johnny, what do you have to say about
that? Yeah, man. Like after you have to play him. I think that there's no doubt on that. AJ Brown, man, it's getting really, really interesting. It's getting really interesting. As far as he goes, right? I've seen reports that they were beefing, him and Jalen Hurts are beefing. Then I seen another thing where they were praying on the sideline. Almost felt like a DMX concert. They're beefing, they're praying. What all is going on, man? Yeah, man. So yeah, man. I don't know, man. I think definitely it's got to be you got to play AJ Brown. So I'm just gonna keep it simple. AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin. You play both of those guys, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's just pretty simple. I like Juwan Jennings for the volume play, so I don't mind you playing him over McLaurin, but we're gonna say McLaurin together, and you have to go back to the AJ Brown well. It's just it's just one of those situations. There's certain guys you just cannot bench because the moment you bench them, you will be kicking yourself when he goes off for over 100 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. So it's you'll just be kicking yourself. Plus a game in Pittsburgh where, again, Hurts will have to throw the ball a bit more in a matchup where, just similar to the Ravens from a couple weeks ago, it's the game's going to be a little bit more tighter than people are probably going to anticipate. And it sets up for just your key guys having to make plays and AJ Brown as a playmaker. So there's that. On to the duds of the week. Patrick Mahomes makes this list again. QB 17. Justin Herbert, QB 19. He's been struggling the last couple games. Johnny, I want your thoughts on. We pretty much know what Mahomes is in this situation. It's Mahomes is a guy that you're hoping that he gets you 16, 18 points for the matchup. If you have someone that's more of a higher, somewhat upside ceiling, maybe you potentially play him over Mahomes. But Herbert, what are your thoughts on him?
Um, and I would think that like where the Chargers are at, like they've got to win, right? Like they've got to win to be in. So I would think that you would see a little bit more from him. And I don't know what Harbaugh is doing. He's playing some weird, crazy game like with the running backs in the backfield. But I think the thing that this does too, man, I think it just highlights the fact that like the Chargers don't have enough playmakers on the outside. You know what I mean? But like if you're if you're in a pinch, man, like I don't want to say you play him if you're in a pinch, because who do they have coming up next, man, for the Chargers? They got the Bucks. So I think like this is a great week to play him. This is a great play if you're playing the Buccaneers, because you know it's going to be a shootout. Everybody's had like that game. So maybe I go back to the well this week, but I was expecting a little bit more from Justin Herbert, to be honest, man. I think this was one of those situations where real life football, like he had them right where we thought they would be. Like we talked about it on Sunday about how the Chargers have played the Chiefs close every single time. They didn't let us down in that aspect. The two running backs, man, that are on this list are definitely the two running backs that like we would highlight. Alvin Kamara, shout out UT. I think we might be at the end of the rope with him now. Because you can look at it through two different lenses now. You can look at it through, all right, like they don't have a quarterback. That's the only show in town, but I'm pretty positive. I don't know if they've been completely eliminated from playoff contention, but I would imagine that they have a lot of things happen and go their way to get there. Although, what's his name? Rizzle. He'll be, he's playing for, not playing, but he's coaching for, for a job, man. So you have that. And then James Cook, dude, like just gave a monster performance in the snow. It was really weird to see how they didn't utilize him in that late game. That was really weird to see. And then we just talked about AJ Brown, and like we're getting into scary hours with him. So I'm really concerned about that situation for sure, because it's very similar to what happened in Tennessee. It's like all of a sudden out of nowhere, like it's a problem. Again, like they're winning football games, man. And like I think it's easy for us to say, to criticize these guys, right? But like you're winning football games, and you still are the number one option in the passing game. Granted, they're not throwing it as much, but you have an all-time season going on with Saquon Barkley. Like, are you in it to win championships? Are you in it to win games? Or are you in it for the stats? So, like, I think, like, it's really conflicting with A.J. Brown. DJ, I think it's more of the same thing like we've seen all year long with, like, the pass catches from the Bears, right? And just the Bears in general as an offense. It is what it is, man. Like, it's the same. DK Metcalf, JSN season is upon us, brother. It is upon us.
Sure is.
It is upon us. And I invested a lot in DK Metcalf in a lot of leagues. And I still believe in him for sure, man. And I still think like he can get the job done.
Do you think the process was still right in terms of DK Metcalf? Do you believe the process was still right? I don't think I wasn't clamoring for Metcalf like some people were. And the only reason why was because I think some people really believe more in the potential. But it just never came about this year. It's not that DK Metcalf is not that dude. It's just, again, like, I don't know if it's just Geno just constantly with the A-dot and just not pushing the ball downfield enough. Because, look, there's the first 6 weeks in the season, like, Geno Smith was leading the NFL in passing attempts. So it's like you can't tell me that Metcalf wasn't trying to get involved because there was that. It's just my overall thing on it. It's just weird that just like DK Metcalf, as much as the opportunities he's had, I know he had missed a couple of games because of injury. I'm not going to say, he wasn't not healthy per se or whatever, but it's more about like, again, he just he was just more of a real life player, better on the field for the NFL versus fantasy. It's like you only had basically, the big game he had against New England, the 10 catch, 129 performance.
Yeah.
That was the only in the Atlanta game where he scored he scored almost 20 full point PPR points. Those are the best performances of the season.
But he got hurt that game too, and like
he did.
After that, it's kind of been a fall So like, is injuries is not injuries, but is that injury, is it playing a part in like what we're seeing now? And like, is it one of those things where like, they blow up? Because they're obviously, man, like they're playing for a division right now. They're playing for a division crown. So I think like, he's not completely off the table when we talk about, the fantasy playoffs and coming down the stretch. So you have him, you still have to start him, you still have to play him, right? Just the pecking order of what those receivers look like for you on your roster might look a little bit different. They got MHJ, man. We talked about it. That's for me. That's probably the biggest bust of the first two rounds. Probably for me is MHJ, man. And I think like we just got a little bit excited. And when I say we, I'm talking about us as a fantasy community. Obviously, there's some people that steer clear of them. I know one league I took him in, that team of shit, because I took him, and I paid for him as a number one wide receiver just because I didn't have him in any leagues, and it just didn't look good. And Evan Ingram and Kyle Pitts, man, two of my guys at tight end. I'm gonna say this right here, man. My cousin, he always used to say this back home. I ain't even got no words for
you. Oh boy. Nathan's got another question. He's asking to rank these guys if they all start. So Garando, Walker, Taylor, McCormick. Let's see. Ranking wise, if Garando plays Thursday, yeah, he would be number one because the calf injury. I don't even know if Walker's playing this week. It could be Sharps the rest of the way, depending on what happens with the update for the calf injury. But Kenneth Walker would be 2 at the moment. Literally would be 1 if he was more healthy. And then it comes down to Taylor and McCormick for me. McCormick has been nice. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But it'll probably be McCormick and then Taylor for me when it comes to the rankings of these guys at the current moment. That could change, obviously, when it comes to if Garendo's out for Thursday. He didn't practice today. He has one more opportunity because they play Thursday to really, unless he pretty much got to have a questionable tag, in my opinion. But they say he was sitting out because it was a precautionary. He could have potentially gotten back in the game on Sunday, but I'm not buying that. I believe it's really going to be game time decision for Garendo. But yeah, if he's out, Taylor would be the guy that steps in. But it's going to be him and Bandicanda is going to be splitting carries potentially.
I like that.
So it's like all this stuff is definitely predicated on what probably happens tomorrow. But if Garendo's playing, I definitely play him because he's an all-purpose back, and then Taylor will be the backup. And if Walker's playing, hopefully he does play, but I'm not too sure about the calf. We don't know much information on that. But McCormick's been a nice start. I just don't know if Alexander Madison's going to play or not. Like, there's a lot of variables here.
Yeah, man. Garendo, man, he looked good, dude. He looked good, which I don't think that was a shock for a lot of us, man. Like, I think we all thought that. And then you also had to go with coach speak with Kyle Shanahan and like what he's done, just historically. He pulls the old dipsy do on you. You know what I mean? So like, I wouldn't be shocked if if you see all 3 of these backs play.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be shocked at that.
And Kyle Juszczyk and Debo.
Right. I would not be shocked. And then, Sincere McCormick, man, I was reading an article today and it was like, feels very familiar to what happened with Zamir White, last year at this point in time. And like, we might be at that stage where it's like, you know what? Just let's see what we got, man. So I'm a Ken Walker owner, man. I'm hoping for the best, dude. But
me too. I am too. I don't have any Charbonnet shares, so I'm kind of nervous.
Me too. Zero. Same. So
Walker, get your ass back in that field.
Yeah, like right. Like So there you go, man. That's what I got for you, brother. But I do like I'll talk about it a little bit later, but we can all get a good laugh about what I'm going to have to do with one of my teams that made the playoffs. So stay tuned.
Word. And then Tracy or Hubbard?
Oh, wait. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard. He's back.
He definitely is back after Jonathan Brooks. I hate to hear that.
Yeah.
They retore his ACL, man. Like,
yeah.
I just hate hearing that. That's really awful. I'm just like, I really feel for that because you worked 10, 11 months, literally, to get back to the spot that you could hopefully play some football again. And you do the same thing. It's like every athlete's worst nightmare to do it
Yeah.
again to the same knee. It's like
J.K.
man, I don't
Dobbins all
know.
over again.
I hope not, but
Yeah.
that's I really hate to hear that.
Which is like,
Um,
bro, like, which is really crazy because, like, that's like one of the things that, like, they talk a lot about is like ACLs and like the turnaround time on them and how it's like, you know, now, like,
all
you,
depends on
like,
someone's body.
right, obviously, but it's just like wild, man. It's just like, here we are again, man, going through that, you know.
It's heartbreaking, like semi heartbreaking for real. But back to the question. I mean, it's Chuba Hubbard's going to get the full workload going against Dallas. Dallas this week. They're going to be at home. And then Giants getting the Ravens off a bye. This is somewhat closer in a way. I'm still going to say Chuba Hubbard, obviously, but Tyrone Tracy still could be an asset where if they get down in the game, which I expect him to be down in the game, he is the pass catching, back to where like Drew Lock, we all know is not. We all know he's not going to be starting next year. But if I have a quarterback that's going to throw the ball 49 times, imagine what he's going to do now against the Ravens, who, again, secondary wise, before they've been tightening up the last couple of weeks for their secondary. But in terms of playing, I could play both of these guys in a pinch, but I would definitely rather start Chuba Hubbard, knowing that we have no idea what the third stringer Blackshear is going to look like for this game either. So it's should be all Chuba Hubbard's backfield, and he should keep on hubbing.
Blowing bubbles and hubbing. Yeah, man. I know. Tracy ended up like some garbage time stuff happening. Last week, man. I'm like,
yeah,
I think the weather's
you were
already hitting us.
Definitely roboting over there.
Yeah.
No, not freezing. It's just you keep on.
Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah, I just think Chuba Hubbard is the play, man. Like volume and like the Panthers, man, like they have been playing better football. They're more competitive. So like I just have a hard time not giving the green light to him, man, like over Tracy.
Definitely. So that makes sense. It's Chuba Hubbard to the bank. That being said, that was the top performers and duds of the week. The only thing I'll go back and say is that your boy Kyle Pitts, I'm sorry, bro.
I know.
I'm sorry,
Me
man.
too.
I feel bad for everybody who's at MSJ. It's not exactly over for MSJ, but he gets Christian Gonzalez this week. And if you made the playoffs and you're playing the first round, I'm not sure if I feel confident starting him against that matchup. But Arizona, they played the second, hardest schedule up to this point, and now that schedule gets a little bit more lighter upcoming. So this is probably the matchup I still may shy away from. But at least for the next couple weeks after this, when it comes to the Cardinals, they're a 6-point favorite coming into the game. They're at home against New England, so New England has to come from east to west. But after this, they get the Panthers for your semifinal matchup, where we know their defense has been pretty trash. And then we get the Rams for most people's championship weeks. So if it's MSJ time, you're hoping that it's right now if you have him, but it's now or never, literally. The rest of these duds here, I mean, Kamara, like I expected big things from this past week, and for whatever reason, the Saints just didn't look like a great offense. And then they lost Derek Carr. So it's like from bad to worse now. Like, it's like going from eating this glorious candy to going to licorice.
Like he went with a candy reference.
It's awful.
He went with a candy reference.
It's awful. It's just awful, man. It is. It's terrible. DJ Moore, I think we could still feel confident about starting moving forward because the volume. But Rome Odunze can become a thing all of a sudden. 2 touchdowns this past week. So,
Yes, sir.
buddy. But yeah, I mean the Bears, man, I have no idea. I really don't want to count on them down the stretch outside of DJ Moore. Like it gets shaky. But yeah, I mean Evan Ingram, tight end 18. I mean, he'll get his 4 or 5 catches. But Mac Jones, we all know, should not be starting in NFL. We have another question. So I am currently in week 2 of a 2-week playoff format. What the heck? What kind of mumbo jumbo is this stuff? I'm curious to know what format. Curious to know what format he's playing on because I don't see that on any ESPN or NFL or.
I think there's some. Yeah, well, maybe they chopped out the instead of 6 teams, maybe they went 4 in 2 weeks.
Because even I don't know. That's weird because if you're in a 2-week playoff format now, that means week 14. If you had players for week 14, always be reading settings, people.
Oh God, I had to go off on some people in our group chat today about that too. Go ahead.
But to the question, Wonder Deer's asking because he's down 20 points and a half-point PPR. I have AJ Brown at the flex. I'm debating Uncle Rico over him. What do you think? Panthers run D against the run. Yeah, where's D against the run? Absolutely, they are. That's crazy, yo. That's awful. I hope you weren't burned by that too much. But being down 20 points is definitely substantial. Half-point PPR, we got Uncle Rico, who's back-to-back performances of 100 yards or more. For Rico Dowell. Man, definitely tough.
There's no man to it, man.
Yeah, there is because, like, in a world right now where Rico Dowell has had back-to-back 100-yard performances, yes.
Yep.
Almost killed me in a matchup too. So almost did. But yeah, still didn't get a first round bye because of him. But going back to the question, you have to start AJ Brown. You just have to. Again, it just goes back to what I said a few minutes ago. If you have AJ Brown and he goes off for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he's on your bench, you will be thinking about that moment where you benched him all year long, especially if it costs you your matchup. So I mean, look, go with your gut though, because I always tell people go with their gut.
He froze up.
You can recommend things all the time. If you want to tell me I'm wrong, that is okay too. I froze up.
Yeah, I got you though. Like for me, man, like you probably got the absolute worst person on this screen to be asking about in this situation. Like clearly the worst guy in the world to ask.
Oh God, yo.
Clearly the worst guy to ask, right? But man, like, I don't want to give too much away, man, but like Rico Dowell, man, like it looks like it's starting to happen, man. And like we were all relatively high on him this summer. But it's starting to happen. And he's got a mint matchup against Carolina. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it's just like the Steelers need this game. This is one of the games. I'm going to go on one of my little rants. Like, this is one of the games where Tomlin gets these guys up to play in these type of big matchups. Mike Tomlin typically loses against teams that he has no business losing to. However, if it's an even playing field or the team is a little bit better, Mike Tomlin typically performs. And my concern in this matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles with the Steelers, I've been saying it all year long, it's not in the passing game. It's in the run game. Like, they've done well against mobile quarterbacks. They played well traditionally against guys like Josh Allen, against Lamar Jackson. Obviously, Jalen Hurts fits into that category. Jalen Hurts hasn't quite been the passer from an accuracy standpoint that we thought he would be this year. So, like, I don't know, man. This feels very trappy to me, man. And it feels like the obvious answer is right there in front of us. Because, like, if you said, with any other running back, if you just, like, got rid of the names, right, and you were looking at Rico or any running back going against the Carolina Panthers in any type of setting, and you said, all right, man, hey, the running back that we have going here, let me find it. the running back we have right now over the last 3 weeks has been a top 9 running back and put up 21 and 15 points going against the worst defense in the NFL, and he's a top 9 running back, we would be all over that. We would hit the smash button. So if we even look at it from that standpoint, man, to me, I think that as hard as this is, I think you play Rico Dowdle, man, and you sleep like a baby as opposed to playing A.J. Brown. I don't think he's going to go nuclear against the Steelers. Do I think he could have a good game? Absolutely. But I think Rico Dowdle has a ceiling where he could do the same exact thing that A.J. Brown does, or maybe even a little bit better. So sorry I'm not helping you guys out, man.
No, you're not. But it's understandable. I can understand why someone would start Rico over AJ Brown based on the performance. But it's, again, I've seen these things before, and we're like, look, like it's always the squeaky wheel thing, where it's like everybody talks about the recent woe of the receiver that happened the week before. All of a sudden, people want to bench him, whatever. We're talking about AJ Brown here. We're talking about elite receiver here. Then we want to talk about setting.
We're talking about an elite receiver going against an elite defense. It's not like it's a mid matchup. You know what I mean? Like if it's a mid matchup and it just it just hasn't, just like it didn't happen last week, right? Like
I'm not saying we're not thinking about the matchup, but sometimes when we're talking about elite receivers, no, we can't do it. But again, everyone should go with how they feel in terms of how their gut feels. Right. And that's how that is. My answer is make sure you start AJ Brown. And if I'm wrong, I'm okay with being wrong about AJ Brown. It's just more about if you're wrong about him, he's on your bench. You'll feel like a loser.
You can say the same thing with Rico Dowdle. Like that's why we're having the conversation. You can say the same thing because this is a layup matchup, and like this is what it is, man. It's like this is fantasy football. At its prime right here is like, are we going to take a name brand value or are we going to go with what we've been seeing and what's been being showed to us over the last 3 weeks to a month? And if we're going off of what we've seen over the last, 3 weeks or so, like we've seen that, yes, statistically, the Carolina Panthers are bad. Like they're bad, but they still haven't been very good against the run game. Like they still haven't been good against the run game. And Rico Dowdle has been better. And the Dallas Cowboys offense looks halfway competent. Like, I'm not saying it's great. It's top 22-3, right? But, like, I don't know, man. Like, this one, I feel like the answer is right there in front of us, man. You got, again, the last 3 weeks, man, you have a top 10 running back right in front of you in a prime matchup. And here we go versus, again, looking at the opposite end of it, you have a Philadelphia Eagles offense who's going to throw the ball 19 to 25 times in a game, I shouldn't say all of them going to go to A.J. Brown, but then you're going up against one of the premier corners in the NFL. You still have a secondary who's played really well. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I just, again, and I'm probably the wrong person to ask, so I'm going to shut up now because I'm just getting fired up again. That's it.
On that note, we move on.
Okay. Good luck to you, brother. Good luck.
Waiver Wire Week 15 is here in the books. Did our best to make sure the available players that we have, disclaimer is that these players are under 60% of sleeper leagues available. So that means they are available in 59% or less in the leagues. It's a tough one. Yeah, I know, but for a 3-point difference between them. I mean, it is what it is, man. Like, definitely good luck. Let us know how that transpires for you, for sure. But if you have any more questions for us, let us know too. But yeah, top waiver claims for QB. The QBs I've lowered this week because we want to focus on if you're in a spot where you need a QB, you most likely need him to start over your current option. So the QBs I have are here. We've talked about others in the past. There's still a Russell Wilson probably out there, still in a ton of leagues. There's still Stafford out there as well. But in terms of these QBs go low, they all have decent matchups upcoming for Week 15. And then there's some super flex QBs. Desmond Ridder's going to get an opportunity to start again for the Raiders. Kind of say he was pushing to play, but I'm not sure if he'll play. And then Jake Haener. Jake Haener, who is going to be the QB starting for the Saints, while Derek Carr is right now at the moment week to week for your Superflex formats. So yeah, I mean, if you have to start Jake Haener on your Superflex, man, it's not going to look as pretty. But QB wise, I would say, look, Jameis Winston has been on a freaking heater. Even in games where he's like still like kind of showing his, his floor. I'm talking about his floor still being 20 points. And again, like, he had a somewhat floor matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when it comes to Jameis Winston, we all know he's going to keep on throwing the football. There's only in 3 of the last 4 games, he's had 40 or more pass attempts. Yeah, like no matter the game script, Jameis Winston's going to throw the football. And what better way to do that against Kansas City Chiefs this week? Cleveland being at home in a matchup where the Chiefs have been as a team just underperforming in general, all things considered. And again, with Jameis Winston hopefully playing for maybe the starting QB job for the Browns next year, he's going to look to do everything he can to keep things rolling. So again, if you have if you're in a tight pinch where you're maybe even starting potentially floating out one of these guys, I think Jameis Winston is probably the best bet out of all these options here and probably on your waiver wires. If that's different, let us know in the chat. But Caleb Williams, look, like the Bears, man, I mean, all they can do is keep on rolling out Caleb Williams, obviously. But at least we know with Caleb Williams, there's a nice rushing floor there when it comes to him running the football in a spot where, again, now playing Minnesota, Monday Night Football, he's had at least 4 carries or more in 4 of the last 7 games, and he continues to keep on getting rush floor, which is good. But yeah, look, the game that he had this past week against the Niners just shut him down. Before that game, Caleb Williams threw 2 touchdown passes or more in the last 3 before the last pass game. And I think, again, if you're in a pinch where you need to play a QB, you've had just awful starts, or you have a guy that you're just not confident starting, I think Caleb Williams, you could still start against Minnesota this past week, this upcoming week, divisional matchup, in a dome game. So you don't have to deal with so much weather. Aaron Rodgers, speaking of the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, first time he threw over 300 passing yards since 2021. Crazy to think about. But the only reason why he's a recommendation to potentially start, pick up and start this week is because they get Jacksonville Jaguars, and everybody gets theirs against Jacksonville. Especially potentially, Breece Hall, this upcoming week too. It's like, the Jets will have to throw the football more in order to maintain a potential lead against the Jaguars. So that's where Aaron Rodgers can, he's playing for his job in one way, in another shape or form, because correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know another spot where Aaron Rodgers can kind of just slip in there and start and without really no questions asked. And in terms of he'll want to go there, play, and these guys are somewhat in a playoff, situation. Like the only way I could see this happening is if Minnesota doesn't re-sign Darnold, and then he ends up going somewhere else, and then that's where the door might open for that. But am I wrong on that?
I don't think you're wrong. The only other place that I could possibly see, and this is a stretch, is maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the situation is here. Maybe you look at the Saints. Maybe
that's possible. That's possible, but
that
team should be rebuilding, and we've said this for years. But
that's probably the only place I could really possibly see him going to would be like the Saints. Like if you
don't see Minnesota if they don't re-sign Darnold.
I don't think so, man. Because I think my boy KOC. I think he can make it work with anybody after what he just did. He was making it work with Josh Dobbs. He's making it work now with Sam Darnold. Nick Mullins. Now he's got I Yo, man, I think he's one of them cats that, like, you know what? He's like, no, like, y'all can have it, man. Like, I trust my own process and I believe in what I got. So, yeah, I think that's the only place
That's
I can
fair.
see would be New Orleans.
That's fair. And then Will Levis is on this list, and he's probably more readily available than some of these other guys. Will Levis had been doing some good things, but then kind of I don't know what happened to Tennessee this past week. They really just did not show up to play, and as much as it just did not show up to play. And we can always talk.
Bro.
It just is. We could talk about maybe him, or maybe we could add Cooper Rush to this list potentially. Like just
I like Cooper. I like Cooper Rush
so,
being added. I like Cooper Rush being added to the list, and I'll kind of tell you why, man. Is McCarthy, man. He's always actually done okay, man, with quarterbacks, and like it's always been an offense, man, where like they're typically they throw to set up the run, which is why again, like the Rico Dowdle thing, man, like I'm all in on. And he's typically done a pretty good job, like in the passing game, man. And like Cooper Rush is a backup quarterback. He's got a little bit of a wiggle to him, man. You got CD Lamb, like he still has some weapons out there to throw to and stuff, man. So like I'm okay. Like if you want to do that, man, I think like he's gonna give you QB2 numbers, man. If you're looking at super flex, but obviously like if you're in a 1 QB league, like that's a little bit more risque. But I'm okay with having I'm okay with having, honestly, man, like Cooper Rush. Yeah, like I think like that top waiver tier, that's exactly where I think he needs to be at. Because I would actually, at this point, I probably would prefer him over Will Levis. And Aaron Rodgers, like you said, you never know which Aaron Rodgers you're gonna get. And there's gonna come a time, man, where whether it's this week or next, like they're gonna pull the plug, like eventually here, man, on this Jets team.
It's definitely possible. It's cuffing season for the running backs. Running backs on the board is running backs you should already have coveted already in one way, shape, or form, or if they're available in waivers this week, make sure you pay attention, especially if someone drops one of them, just because again, the next man up list, so to speak, either cuff your running back, I'm saying like your lead back versus one of these backups, or cuff another one of these backups to someone else's, because this is the time of the year where if something weird was to happen, like you just talked about, Johnny, with the Jets, like we don't know how much longer Aaron Rodgers is going to keep on playing games, if they're going to shut him down or they're going to just shut down other pieces of this offense down. So you have those things going. But yeah, like Sean Tucker is a new addition to this list. Tyler Algier is someone that we've been on and off on this list with, because again, something would happen to Bijan, like Algier's right there. Sharp's been on this list for the last couple of weeks, so I hope you've been taking advantage, because no one of my leagues dropped Sharps, so I couldn't take advantage. Just to keep people straight. But yeah, those are the running backs that you should have already coveted. Their top RBs for this week, depending on leagues. There's a different options, but are they startable is really the question. Alexander Madison and Sincere McCormick. McCormick has seen his RB rush share continuously climb the last 2 weeks. Without Madison and without Zamir White. But if both of those guys are able to come back, especially Alexander Madison, because Alexander Madison was the one somewhat leading this, you could call it a committee now in a way. He was still able to, be the guy that was getting all the usage, or at least the majority of the usage. So he's someone I would still prioritize off the waiver wire. He's right now 50% available across sleeper leagues. So he might be available, he might not. Isaiah Davis, cover boy. Isaiah Davis, the cover boy. Him and Braylon Allen pretty much split in the backfield for Breece Hall being out. Not sure Breece Hall's status this week. So Isaiah Davis, would he be the number one waiver claim? Potentially. He's like 2 or 3 up there for me in terms of if you need a running back to potentially start. It's just, again, it's a precarious situation because we don't know what Hall's going to play this week. And then if he isn't out, is the split still going to be the same that we saw this past week, where Braylon Allen's going to get some work, Isaiah Davis is going to get some work? They're playing the Jaguars, so again, an easy matchup on paper where both guys could definitely be utilized. So there's that. Rashawn Johnson makes the list because DeAndre Swift was somewhat in danger until about late Thursday, early Friday, where we didn't know if he was going to play, but he ended up, started to, get practice time in, and Swift ended up playing. But Roshan Johnson should definitely be someone on your benches right now. He's been dealing with a concussion. That's why he's been out. I think he deserves to be on your team's rosters for the moment, depending on league size. And then obviously the Niners situation, we have to keep our eyes on Patrick Taylor, and Abanda Kanda.
Izzy.
Yeah. Former Jet. So, and again, Niner system, and one cut running back. So it's definitely a system where he could definitely thrive in. You guys got to pay attention to the situation because we don't know what Guerrero's status is going to be. We're talking about this Tuesday night, so some things can change tomorrow. So definitely pay attention to that. Kendrick Miller makes the list because we don't know what the Saints are going to do now. They've had so many injuries to their offense, and we don't know if they're just going to all of a sudden just kind of keep Kamara a little bit more, the sideline a little bit more, and Kendrick, Alvin Kamara might be like, hey, my knee or this. After I got this contract extension, they may not want to work him to the ground. So Kendrick Miller becomes an intriguing option, especially when waivers clear, because people might read the box score on Kendrick Miller, but they may not. They're still going to be like, what's the likelihood that him and Kamara are going to split the workload? Highly unlikely, but he probably slots himself over Jamal Williams as RB2. And then, again, Saints need some playmakers, so who knows? And then Jerome Ford makes the list along with Jeremy McNichols. Austin Eckler on the IR. It's unfortunate because I didn't expect Austin Eckler to be on the IR at this point in the season.
I didn't expect Austin Eckler to be doing nothing. But I did, man. Like I did. I thought it was washed, bro.
Well, him and Nick Chubb were kind of in that same, are we going to expect a lot from these guys this year? Whatever. Both these guys have come out and done some okay things this year. Like I think Austin Eckler kind of proved that he still has some game a little bit. I think Chubb has done the same thing, but it's a little bit more of a slower process. But Jerome Ford belongs in a list because, again, we don't know. He's getting a little bit more usage this past week. So it's just something to keep our eyes on. McNichols, the same thing, but it's like the only time McNichols might not be an ad this week, but something we have to keep our eyes on because Washington gets the Saints this week. And dare I say, will they find themselves in trailing situation? Most likely not. So it's shaping up to be a Brian Robinson day, Chris Rodriguez day. But keep our eyes peeled on McNichols when, the week following where they'll play Philly again. And that game could go a little bit more back and forth. And McNichols can find himself on your rosters because you may have to start him in a pinch. You never know. That's the running backs for the week. John A. will take us through the wide receivers for the waivers this week.
Yes, can.
We got McMillan, the wide receiver 9.
We got a friend of the program, man. Somebody I'm going to be looking at adding to my decimated roster from one of my home leagues. I'm going to have to play like a DFS lineup up here the next couple of weeks, man, and maybe I might be able to tease some people to get some names out there on the waiver wire that maybe they might just pick up to maybe give me some free gimmies. But
that's rough.
Oh, bro. Just real quick. Bryce Young, Breece Hall, George Pickens, Ken Walker, Cedric Tillman, and Chris Olave. That is what my bench looks like. All O's out.
Yeah, damn.
Yeah, man, Jalen McMillan. I think we've been waiting on it for a while, man, for sure. Matchup might not necessarily be what we want it to be on paper in terms of pass defense. Like the Chargers have one of the better defenses in the NFL like all year long. So I mean, we're playing him obviously because he's gonna be getting run. So I'm gonna have to give it a shot. So there's that. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, NWI.
There you go.
Yep, was he didn't make it happen this week. So the streak finally broke. Word to Kevin Nash and the taser with Bill Goldberg. I can't help my corny wrestling references. The streak stopped. And out of all teams, the freaking Jacksonville Jaguars, bro. out of all the teams. Like that's the team that the streak ends against. Is there, but obviously you still have to kind of give him some run, man. They're going to be in a potential shootout situation. I think they got the Bengals this week, so that again, points will be scored in that situation for sure. My man, ex Steelers return specialist Ray Afro Cloud McCloud. Um, I would say like for him, man.
Afro Thunder.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Dreamcast. Let's go. I think like this one, man. This is one of those situations, right, where it's like the Raiders overall, or just I should say the Falcons, man. Like we're getting into scary hours, man. With Kirk Cousins, man, we might be getting ready to see Michael Penix, which that might also be a team, man. You might want to put up there, or a player that you might want to put up there. Is him because like it's got to be happening. And the Raiders actually they've been about mid-pack. Man, when you look at things like adjusted completion percentage, so like Ray McCloud, he could be somebody that like again. He might be somebody that like you can play in a flex position, like if you're dealing with injuries, which is why he's on this list. Josh Palmer and the Chargers, man, they got some really nice games coming up here, coming down the stretch. Man, they got the Bucs. Obviously, the Bucs have been one of those teams that has been giving it up. So, like again, man, like I feel good about Josh Palmer. Shout out UT. Wouldn't be crazy for him to to potentially have a couple of big games. Coming down the stretch here, man, is they have a little bit of a more friendly schedule. Elijah Moore and I don't know if you meant Cedric Wilson or Cedric Tillman here, but like Cedric both Wilson. Of them have been okay. Elijah Moore, I think like you've seen, spurts of what he can do like here and there, but I think it's pretty clear and definitive that, behind whether it's behind Tillman and Njoku, and Judy, or whether it's just Judy and Njoku, like he's more of a third or fourth fiddle. But like again, still somebody that has the potential to do some damage to to what Nick was talking about earlier about how the Browns, they're on the football and they're gonna have to put up some points, and that's another scary game for the Kansas City Chiefs to play a team that's got nothing to lose. So that should be interesting for sure. Brandon Cooks, he's back. Been back since Thanksgiving. Obviously had that touchdown catch on Thanksgiving. And the Cowboys, overall, just like we talked about, man, they're playing the Panthers. Again, Panthers been playing better, but Cooper Rush, man, like I said, like I think we're starting to see, like, I don't think he's taking Dak Prescott's job or anything like that, but I think like he's definitely definitely a competent and capable backup quarterback in the league that can run an offense. It get the ball up and down the field. So again, like if you're in a pinch, man, Brandon Cooks is another name. My guys right here. I'm going to stop. My guys, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Christian Watson, if he's still out there for whatever reason, man, like he came up big, on Thursday night last week. So it was good to see him have a really good game. Jaden Reed let everybody in the sports betting world, in the fantasy football world, in his family, his high school football team, his Pop Warner team, everybody in Detroit, he let them all down talking all that monster shit and didn't do not another. Me and Nick Wilcox could have got out there and got one target for 0 Sato. We could have done that. So that's my rant about him. But Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, man, like especially Doubs, people have been dropping him. If they've been dropping him, pick him up. Like pick him up. I know he's got the concussion piece, right? And hey, what up, Tim? He's got the concussion piece, right? But still, man, whether we look, man, maybe 1 or 2 weeks down the road, he can still help you out, man. Cedric Wilson Jr., hey, man, throw it out there. What's the worst that could happen, man? We've pretty much tried every single wide receiver there with the Saints all year long. Why not? Like, why not? Hollywood Brown is more of a championship kind of play or stash, I would say, if we're looking at that. But, like, the weird thing about this week for me, like you were talking about quarterbacks earlier, it's going to be a really strange week, I can tell you, because a lot of the teams that are bad defensively in terms of like just completion percentage and yards and things like that right there are going to get subpar offenses. So I think we're going to see some of these players that like haven't got a lot of like recognition and had to put up these monster games. I think we're going to see some of those players kind of put some things up.
Yeah, totally. It's just like with receivers, like obviously they're gonna be waning. McMillan, I wanted to talk about really quickly because McMillan, like, he's probably my number one claim if I definitely need a receiver this week. We're talking about a guy that's plays opposite Mike Evans. We finally saw him more put it together. This is the McMillan I wanted to see weeks ago when we were talking about him, and it just wasn't like coming together for whatever reason. Played 79% of the snaps this past week while scoring 2 touchdowns on 59 yards receiving. And I think it only gets better. Gets a matchup against the Chargers where Mike Evans gonna get a lot of attention, obviously. And then the Dallas game for the week after, and then the Carolina Panthers to finish up the season. I think he's someone that we need to prioritize, potentially have number one claims on, because he could be, we love to get receivers that end up doing big things later on in the year. This could be it. The same thing with Roma Dunze if he's out there more. He wasn't available enough in leagues to give a recommendation for, but he's definitely someone that should be out there. Going back to the running backs, wanted to talk about the Denver situation because it's always ever changing.
Yes.
We've been talking about this all year long. Like, Julian McLaughlin finally had a game. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he had his best game of the season. He had a career high 14 carries, 84 yards, and 1 catch. Like, so crazy that, McLaughlin, who we always know is talented, but it's like Javonte Williams also talented. Like, I still want to use, Estime. Like, it's so crazy what Sean Payton is doing to us as a fantasy manager. Absolutely ridiculous. I see people dropping Javonte Williams. I think that at this point, I'm not going to say it's not a mistake, because if there's someone out there better that you need to prioritize, it's understandable. I think, though, if he's still free by the time waivers end, when you guys have cleared waivers, he needs to be picked up and just stashed just in case
100%.
Sean Payton wants to give us another ride. All of a sudden, the Colts, who the fourth most points allowed to running backs this year, they all of a sudden, Javonte Williams could become a thing again. So it's something that we just need to continually keep our eyes on. And Tajay Spears, because Pollard, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know if they're going to, kind of want to ease his load like they said a couple weeks ago. So Spears could be still a guy that we still want to keep on our benches for the moment. And if he finds himself getting cut this week, if you have the room for him, I'd like to see how that situation still transpires, because they did talk about this a couple weeks ago. They did want to lay in Tony Pollard's load, and they have nothing to play for. So why keep on playing the guy that you've been using almost all year? So,
and that, like, do the Denver thing, like you mentioned, like they have the Colts, which that was one of the angles we're looking at, like not good defenses, is like you have those there, and I think like people are having to start to respect my boy Cortland Sutton, and put some respect on his name, man. You know what I mean? And same thing with Bo Nix. So I think that's definitely a good call, man. Like, for sure.
Tight ends, Johnny's going to take it away for the tight ends. There's only so many options at this point in the year. People seeing people drop Kyle Pitts, so the tight end situation, man. If you don't have George Kittle, if you don't have McBride, if you don't have Bowers, like, everybody else seems like it's just a crapshoot. Yeah, it seems like it's just a crapshoot, honestly.
Yeah. Zach Ertz, man. Again, like, he's another guy like we definitely like. He's been able to stay healthy all year long. So I think that's obviously the biggest call out for him. And then, obviously the other aspect of that is, like, we look at who they're playing the Saints. So right now, probably the Commanders are probably thinking, like, hey, man, how do we get to the playoffs and stay upright and stay healthy? So Ertz is definitely a thing. And what was the guy's name at the beginning of the year? Everybody was all hot and bothered about for the Commanders at tight end. I already forgot his name. Young Buck. Already forgot his name. They were like, everybody was like, "Yo, Zach Ertz ain't even going to be a thing." And here we are.
And here we are, week 15.
Yeah, right.
Here we are, people.
Now, this is the one I think we really need to talk about here, man, is Hunter Henry. We really should talk about him a little bit because one of the places that the Cardinals have not been very good at. They just haven't been good as far as like the passing game goes. And like we all know that like the offense is going to go through Hunter Henry. I know traditionally there used to be this thing that you always play tight ends against the Cardinals. They've been a little bit better, but I just think overall, just the passing game as a whole for or whatever passing game shows up for the Pats in this aspect, man, that might be a place we can get to. Our guy Juwan.
We got him back, people. We got him back.
Oh, okay. Man, dude, this wind is hell up here, bro. It's like 40 miles an hour up here right now, man. Like, and I'm still out here trying to do this. Yeah. And then our guy Juwan Johnson. I think obviously, like, just by process of elimination, there's nobody there. There's nobody else there for the Saints other than him. So I like him a lot. Grant Calcaterra. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Sure did.
Right. So I think, like, you know, we were talking about A.J. Brown a little bit earlier in the show. Like, this might be the place where he gets some work at, might be this game, because what do you do with a defense like Pittsburgh that likes to play aggressive, right, and fast and, like, likes to come after you? You play action them. You use the tight end. Like, that's what you do, right? So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a nice game this week against Pittsburgh. Our guy all the way back from week one, Isaiah Zeke likely still hanging on to be fantasy relevant. Pretty much I should have known what my year was going to be like after I didn't win like $9,000 on a toe tap on the white line. I should have known what my year was going to be like. So there's that. And then Stone Cold Steve Smart. Oh, wait, hold on.
Oh, good Lord.
People. Yeah, I know.
I think that weather is doing a number on your head.
So Stone Smart now, obviously, with Will Dissly going down, you got him in the mix now. So obviously, that's probably a way to get, I don't want to say different, but a cheap way if you're still dealing with fab budget and stuff like that, right? Or, you know, just looking for a filler tight end. And DP, Daniel Bellinger for the Giants. I don't even know if I could even play anybody not named Malik Neighbors or not named Tyrone Tracy. And then Noah Fant. I'm still like lukewarm, but again, like you mentioned, man, like these are all kind of men's, but like for me, like the names that really stand out for me are the first four names on this list are all names I think that are really viable. Really viable for waiver wire additions if you need a tight end.
Word. We got a couple of questions and we'll get to those in just one moment. What I wanted to say was I think process-wise, Daniel Bellinger, if you're really for just hoping for a tight end just to score you a touchdown or just get some great volume for you, I think Bellinger's in a spot to do so. Same thing with Stone Smart. Like he came in, had 3 catches, 54 yards after Will Dissly left the game. So he's someone that is more athletic than Dissly, and I think that he could definitely be factored in. Dissly's expected to miss a couple weeks, so now it's like, all right, well, if I need to start somebody, then maybe that's there. If the other guys above aren't there. Grant Calcaterra has played 83% or more route participation in the 5 games that he's started this year. So he's there, you know, so in a potent Eagles offense, as somewhere where I think that, you know, if Juwan Johnson or Hunter Henry or Ertz isn't there, I think Grant Calcaterra is someone that's just very interesting.
Yes, sir.
Horakio is asking, he's asking Bo Nix or Baker, and then T. Higgins or Garrett Wilson at flex PPR. So Nix or Baker. So we got the Bucks taking on who are they playing this week?
Chargers.
Yep. Chargers. Yep. That should be definitely a game where both of those teams, they have to win. So, and then Denver's taking on Indianapolis in a game where Indianapolis has a little hope if they win the game, but if they lose the game, they're out. And the Colts defense has been pretty bad. I'm going to say Baker, though, because I think both Bucks and the Chargers, they have to the Bucks, especially if they want to keep the division lead. So I'm going on Baker. Baker's been a more somewhat more consistent, even though Knicks is coming off the bye. Um, I just think that Baker still has enough to give you still a great ceiling as well. When you had almost 300 yards passing this past week, 3 touchdowns. I know, great against the Raiders, but it feels like it was a spot that he needed to get out of. I think I have no problem starting him against the Chargers, even though the Chargers defense on paper is a little bit more of a tougher matchup. And then Higgins or Garrett Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Bengals are taking on the. Let me look at right now. They are taking on. They're taking on themselves basically because they stink.
No. Yeah, they're taking on the Titans.
Titans. So Higgins versus Titans, and they've been more of a a better pass D in some ways this season, but for the Garrett Wilson versus Jags, man, it's kind of tough. I'm gonna say Garrett Wilson, and it's only because the Jets are still showing that they're willing to give him and Adams the ball. I just don't know with the Bengals. Like, it's been Jamar Chase's show, but we also got to figure both of these teams are out, so these are also both tougher start-sit questions. But at least with Garrett Wilson, back-to-back games of at least double-digit targets. Garrett Wilson turned those 10 targets last week into 7 catches for 114 yards. Higgins has shown the same type of thing in terms of participations, in terms of how his usage has gone. So as we've seen, even against the Dallas this past yesterday, he could still kind of play hide and seek. So
yeah,
I'm going with Baker. I'm going with Garrett Wilson. What do you say to this question before we move on to another one?
Bo Nix. And I'm going with Bo Nix. I'm going with Bo Nix, man, just because like the Colts have been that bad in the passing game that I think this is definitely an opportunity for Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton to like go absolutely hammer time in this game. And I think like the Chargers, you mentioned it, right? Like the Chargers are playing for something. This is a good football team where the Colts aren't, and this is a place that they've been struggling. I'm just like, I think like what happens, man, is like these playoff teams, man, the games get tighter. Like they get tighter, and the teams like they have more to play for, man. Like they have more to play for. So I think there is an element of that, but just statistically, again, man, over the last handful of weeks, the Colts have been bad against the pass, and Bo Nix has been really good. He's been cooking. And I know you want to go Garrett Wilson, man. I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you, but I'm just going to say T. Higgins just because, A, he's got the better quarterback, and B, after you just seen what Jamar Chase just did to the Dallas Cowboys on Monday night, what should be the game plan? The game plan should be to not let him come out here and go absolutely nuclear and to quote you, scorch earth against the Tennessee Titans. That should be the game plan. So, like, I know that is, like, absolutely split 50-50 down the middle. So my best advice to you, Prego, would be maybe to split us 50-50 down, but I am really confident. I'm really confident about Bo Nix, man, over Baker Mayfield for sure.
Fair enough. Tristan's got a question about start sits. It's the first week of the playoffs. Yes, we definitely know that for sure.
Yes, sir.
Start sit for a 10-man half-point PPR. Jefferson, Puka, St. Brown, Mixon, Kyron, or Demont. So how many are we starting here? Or is it just give us a little bit more of information? Because are we starting? Is it between flexes and between positions? Is that your starting lineup now? Let us know in the chat, Tristan, so we could accurately answer the question for you. Excuse me. But yeah, we were on to naming our defenses, and then we have a name your fantasy playoff hero segment before we get into road to a title. So we're gonna go over streaming defenses now. Tristan, just let us know so we can get that your answer accurately answered for you. Streaming defense this week, some pretty decent options. When you look at your waiver wire, because these two teams' defenses between the Commanders and Ravens were pretty much dropped because people had to make some space, or because of the 6 teams on bye this past week. Like people weren't looking too forward ahead. If they were able to stash one of these potentially. Commanders getting Nola, New Orleans, man, like New Orleans, they're a great option because they're starting Jake Hayner. Hayner wasn't too bad when he filled in slightly several weeks back on Thursday Night Football when Denver was giving him the business. He came in for Spencer Rattler at that time. And Jake Hayner didn't look all that bad. But I think it's still a matchup where Commanders are going to be looking to you right some wrongs defensively. So I expect them to have a better better output this upcoming week. The Ravens obviously look like Ravens know we know the Ravens defense historically has been a defense that we can always somewhat be relied upon. It's just again, everything spells right for this matchup because although the Ravens have tightened up a little bit, versus the pass these last couple of weeks, they are coming off the bye and they're playing Drew Lock. You guys tell me how that's going to fare out. Most likely at 9 times out of 10 because it says NFL. I know, right? 9.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Because there's still a little bit of room where Drew Lock could all of a sudden throw for 3 touchdowns, and we're like, oh, wait a minute, what the heck are Ravens doing? In a letdown spot because they're looking forward to another game down the road. So I'm sure you would love that. But yeah, there's that. And then the Cardinals taking on New England. The Cardinals defense has improved for the last 4 weeks, but they still are a team where do I feel confidently starting defensively as a stream? No, but this is because it's also a stream. It was the first time in the last 4 games where they didn't. It was the first time since week 6 that they didn't have a sack in the game or a turnover. So it was definitely rough, tough sledding for that Cardinals team. It's a bounce back spot. They're at home against New England. So in a game where, look, it's pretty much a must win. I think this Cardinals defense as a whole, this Cardinals team as a whole is going to play a lot better. But anyway, I'm not too sure of that because the Cardinals has just every time I said they're going to do that, they suck. So don't listen to me. We got road to a title next. So Johnny's going to tell us. Johnny's going to start us off where he's at currently. We're talking about as individuals where we're at with our other leagues or how we're standing out. Johnny, take us away.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll start off by saying I got bounced from my own home league, the league that I'm the commissioner in.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that was that. Yeah. I've been really grumpy about it all day long, and I'm still grumpy about it. But I am feeling better than I did last week. Last week I felt like shit. But no, I was in 16 leagues this year, which shout out to the Fantasy Football Expo for getting me in like an additional 5 of those leagues. Yeah. But so far, I am in the playoffs in 7 out of my 16 leagues. 2 of those were dynasty leagues, which I just took my first shot at. One of my dynasty teams, like it was a trash team when I got it. I didn't even have a starting quarterback on the roster. But I did draft. Yeah, I drafted Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and Ray Davis. So I have Kamara and Aaron Jones. Next year I'm going to look against some receivers. I got a bunch of tight ends: Evan Ingram, Travis Kelce, K-Dot, and so that team is kind of that. Then I did a startup dynasty team, which that just went to hell in a handbasket with C.J. Stroud and Dak Prescott and Brian Robinson and Kyle Pitts and like it just went to hell. Tyreek Hill, it went to hell in a handbasket early. So I don't have any insight for that other than that team sucked and I thought it was going to be really good. I have another league where I am in the playoffs. It's a more touchdown heavy league, but I got think I got Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback because it's just touchdowns only, man. It's kind of cavemanish, but it's a different feel, right?
I
It's
love
a
it.
different
Kind
feel.
of cavemanish.
It's a different feel, man. But the touchdown only league when you got Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs, life is good.
Life is definitely
So
good.
yeah, so that was pretty good, man. I got Brock Bowers in the league, so that was going pretty good. My one of my babies that I'm proud of is I'm in the Sirius XM Do Good Listener League, and Kyler, Jaden Daniels, Drake May are the QBs, super flex. Then my running backs are, get ready for this. My running backs are Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Devon Achane. Yeah.
Look
And
at
then,
that. I had some influence on you after all.
yeah, the Achane. I was like, I'll give it a shot. Those are my three starting running backs, but the other two running backs I have are Uncle Rico and I picked up Isaac Garendo, and then I have Malik Neighbors, Christian Watson, JMO. I think I have Calvin Ridley in that league as well. So that's a pretty good team. My tight end's Ferguson, so that's kind of trash. And then I got a couple of sleeper leagues, that you and I are in together, man, that we kind of that we found, together. The Cookout League, man, that did not go the way that I wanted it to. Like quarterback just absolutely roasted me, man. And then like my Scott Fishbowl team, I've talked about it, man. I love the Scott Fishbowl. It's like that's how we met, man. So like I will be back in it actually because I did some of the underdog drafts when we were out in Ohio to like if you finish in the top 50%, you get an automatic invite back. So like I'll finish in the top half. So like I'll be back. So
Nice.
that's cool. But one of the guys I work with and I know pretty well, man, Derek Swanson, he's actually on his way to the semifinals, man. He's got a pretty stacked team. So shout out to him, man, for for representing for sure. Warrior Bowl. I'm almost done. The Warrior Bowl. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's pretty similar. I said I'm in 16 leagues, so this is what you get. It's like an old man segment.
Yep. Old man
and so
segment.
it's pretty similar to Scott Fishbowl, man. But like that roster, I like that one a lot. That's got Jaden, AR, George Pickens, Christian Watson, Chase Brown, DK, Ridley, Saquon, Uncle Rico. So that one, I like that one quite a bit, man. And then I'll kind of wrap it up by talking about my last baby, draft night out. Finished the year. Like I got belts from my home league, but this one, man, I should be happy about finishing in first place.
You should be happy about.
Yeah. And that Sirius XM Listener League, man, I'm actually number 9 overall, man. So like that's another team. Like I'm just so grumpy about getting belts from my home league, too. But
I don't blame you on that.
Draft night out, man. Jalen Hurts, Jimmy Connor, Derrick Henry, Rico Dow, Khalil Shakir, Calvin Ridley, Tyreek, Pickens, Sutton. So like I got a lot of my guys, man, like in that one, and that was a really fun draft for both of us. I think you can obviously testify to that about that was a fun draft, and that draft was really for me, man. It was more about like, all right, like man, you're in a room with a bunch of really sharp guys, and it's like, all right, like, if that's your guy, go fucking get him. And like that was the thing that was really like it really stuck out to me was that was the draft, and I was really like, okay, like this is my guy, like I'm going to get my guys, and I'm pretty happy with the results. Obviously, if only I could have replicated that in every other draft, I'd be doing pretty good, man. So that's hopefully, man. There's 7 championships coming my way out of the 16 league, a little under 50%. But yeah, man, that's just kind of the road to the playoffs for me. So y'all be pulling for me, man.
Well, road to a title concluded for Johnny. All right, so I sent Johnny a screenshot that I won every single sleeper league I was in from this past week, and I'll say I'm pretty good at where I end up having because there was a lot of things that I'm always too pessimistic about my rosters when I draft. I'm always like I could have gotten this person maybe there instead of there. I'm always kind of overanalyzing sometimes when I draft, but when I get right into the thick of things, I know the cores of people that I would like, and I got those. Every draft, I'm always trying to get the guys that I really want to have, not only for I want to see them play, but also it's because people are undermining certain guys on the market. So with the draft night out, Johnny talked about being first. I'm second. And the only reason why I'm second is because of Jake freaking Mooney. Or he beat me, or you beat me week 1. And that's where we stand at the moment.
Yeah.
So I look forward to kicking your ass in the championship game. And there'll be that. But got in, snuck in because I have Josh Allen, Barkley, Achan on this team. I had Rashee Rice, he got hurt. But I've had Darnell Mooney on this roster, has really lifted me up in this thing. Cameron Dicker, consistent kicker.
Dicker the kicker.
Oh, literally. And Jack Smith and Jigba.
There it is.
So all those guys collectively throughout the year have helped me out, keep things going for that for the second seed overall. For the other sleeper leagues, I've had a combination of really just, again, not only just working the waiver wire, but I have had some decent trades come along my way. I've had to trade for Cooper Kupp and McBride, where a team I'm on I have a first round buy on. Where it comes to things change, the biggest advice I can tell people is just things change throughout the whole season. And constantly you have to reevaluate how you view different players. And also, depending on the league, who can you acquire? You're not able to always grab, you're not really able to trade for certain guys. And that's the biggest thing about drafts. Like, you want to draft the guys where it's like, okay, I feel comfortable, at least if everything doesn't go as well planned. I have guys that were like, all right, I have a good core of guys that I will probably not trade, and I'll just build around them. And that's how it kind of goes. The Cookout League, man, what a comeback.
Good. I'm happy
things
for
weren't
you, bro.
Things weren't looking as spry because so many more bonuses happen for the running backs, but it is a tight end Superflex premium league, so 1.5 for tight ends. Look, man, I had McBride, not a Kittle. I've had McBride, I've had Kittle. I've gone to this league as my running backs, Devon Achan, who, if you've been a fan of this show, fan of my work, Devon Achan, told people all year long about Devon Achan. Najee Harris, who has just, in this league, like I said, you get points for attempts and stuff like that. And man, the guy that I was picking up left and right, like later in the draft, my gem, Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
Chuba freaking Hubbard in like 6 of my leagues right now. I have. It's absolutely crazy. Chuba Hubbard, like Chuba Hubbard. But in terms of, like, again, you gotta, for me, I like to always say make your own luck, because in this game of fantasy football, you're gonna have to use luck. You have to make your own. In all my, I have 1, 2, 3, 6, and then, so I have 9 leagues overall. I made playoffs in all 9. The only team that I've had a losing record in is the team I commissioned. The league I commissioned. And I barely got in at 6 and 8. And it was because I had to deal with Puka Nacua injury. I have Debo on that roster. He stinks. Amari Cooper, he's also been hurt and also underperformed. Kyler Murray, who's been a bum. Dare I say more? I had to trade for Barkley, which is so masterful. Trade away Puka Nacua, Chase Brown, and Keon Coleman for Xavier Worthy and Barkley. Like, masterful performance. And then really masterful, Isaiah Likely and Tucker Kraft for Cooper Kupp. So, like, pretty masterful. Like I said, you gotta make your own luck. So we'll see how that team comes about now for first round. But yeah, in closing, for the road to a title, 9 championships would be fantastic. Realistically, just give me 6 of those. Pertaining the Cookout League, where everybody talks the most shit.
Yeah, no, I think that's the one I'm actually like, man, go ahead, bring it home, man. Go on and bring it back home. Go on and bring it back home, bro.
I'll see you in the finals of the draft night out. I'll make sure you're there. I'll make sure I do my best to be there. Get myself all fancy. You know what I'm saying? Get a
Yeah,
drink.
yeah, man. No, listen,
Um,
I'm hoping to your point, man. If I could, there's a couple of those, man. If I had my picks of which ones that I would really want to win, it would definitely be if I could only win three of them. It would be I have a home league, obviously that I'm in, and like that would mean a lot because I've won that one before. But it would mean even more this time if I was able to pull this off because of the
I know what you
amount
mean.
of injuries that I have on the team. That would be great. And then obviously draft night out. But here's a caveat, man. Like for us, for me and you, brother, my brother, this is for me and you. So the Sirius XM one, man. So like if you win any Dan Classic and Sirius XM, you win like a little bit of money and you get like a subscription. But you also get like a 15-minute spot on Sirius XM radio. So like what a great platform for to be able to advertise us here. So like yeah, man. So those are the three I'm hoping for, man.
Yeah, you can handle that. Handle that. You've learned well, Scott, young grasshopper. Oh man. Shit. Final segment of the night. We got name your fantasy playoff hero. In doing this, the criteria for this is name a guy or two that you're predicting is going to have a hand in either winning a matchup for you or potentially being that guy that comes out of nowhere to help you win your title. So Johnny, I'm gonna let you go first. Johnny has listed Christian Watson, what a surprise, and Uncle Rico Dow. Explain yourself.
Christian Watson, man, I think it's just kind of self-explanatory. Like if Romeo Dobbs is still out, like Christian Watson becomes the guy. And I have him in a lot of leagues, man. I still believe in Christian Watson, the talent. I still believe in Jordan Love. I just don't think like it's all started to kind of click, man. And things have been a little bit rough for Jordan Love. So I do believe in Christian Watson, man. I think he's somebody that can absolutely help me win a championship. Same thing with Uncle Rico. Like I have him in a few leagues, and the irony in having him, it's kind of twofold because a lot of leagues that I have in, he's either like my third running back in a spot where like you can only play two running backs, or my fourth running back when you can only play three running backs. But I do think that he's a guy for everybody that's watching that, like if you have him, I wouldn't be surprised, like as we talked about, right? Like I've been talking about it all show long. Like they're playing the Carolina Panthers. I wouldn't be surprised, man, if he ends up putting up a 2-touchdown, 100-yard game, and helps get you to the next round. So those are two names, and I'll give you guys another name as well, man. I don't want to be knee-jerk. I just feel like it's
bonus one. Ooh.
I have a bonus one, man, because I was thinking about it, and I'm actually changing my team name in my home league for this guy because he got me there.
Oh wow!
Changing my team name to All Eyes on Me for Khalil Shakir. You know what I mean? Like I think like they made the trade for Amari Cooper, but I just think there's just something to be said about Khalil Shakir, man, and what he's been able to do. So I think he's another guy that can help out as well, man.
I mean, definitely probably for this week because they play Detroit. I'm not saying that you can't have a hand in doing things for you down the stretch because the matchups will be there after this week, especially too. So I like that. Khalil Shakir. I like Watson. I like Rico Dow. I have a Rico Dow actually a couple of leagues as well. In terms of Christian Watson, I mean, look, like we've seen Christian Watson do this type of thing before a couple of years ago. So it's definitely within his bag, they say.
Yes.
So it makes sense. I really don't mind that at all. For my guys, I have a couple. They're probably a little bit more rostered, but you just have to double check your rosters. Hopefully, you can still acquire one or both of them. Jameis Winston for me is just a guy that, for fantasy terms, like he's a guy that literally can win you a week because of just the volume that he's gonna do versus your average quarterback. Like Winston for me is not like just a middling QB2. He's like a lower end QB1 with a chance to be a top 5 every week just because of the volume. Like, again, we talked about before, in 3 of the last 4 games, he's had 40 or more passing attempts. So he's going to keep chucking it for better or for worse. And if you're especially in a league where you don't get as penalized for turnovers and stuff like that, or pick sixes or whatever, like Jameis Winston, like, look, the box scores speak for itself, but also the play. Like, again, Denver's defense, who was pretty decent, you know what I'm saying, for the last several weeks, especially heading into the game against Cleveland, we all thought it was going to be a snooze fest.
That snore
400
fest. I love it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a snooze fest. The over-under was like 41 and a half. Everyone's like, yeah, you know, if you're playing a guy in that game, you're probably whatever, da-da-da. The game goes out for over 70-something points, and I'm like, what the fuck? So,
Yeah.
and because of Jameis Winston, because look, he threw a couple of pick sixes, but it was like he threw for almost 500 passing yards. So it's the ceiling is there, and that's what you love about that, especially if you're in a situation like you got Mahomes, you got Herbert, whatever. Like, you may have to just start, you know, playing the matchups and see what it is. And Winston on paper right now this week, it's the Chiefs, who can give you a floor of 20, 22 points, but can give you a ceiling 40, potentially 50. It's like a little box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh.
I know, right? Next guy, Adam Thielen, who, let's some respect to my boy Adam Thielen's name. You know, profile pic selfie. Checking on X. Standing on business here. But Thielen, look, like he's had now Bryce Young playing differently. Watching the tape the last couple of weeks, because we've watched some of his games. The biggest difference I'm noticing from Bryce Young right now is that because he reminds me of Russell Wilson a little bit, shades of it, of where he's a smaller quarterback and he's now able to maneuver, like, instead of working against the tide, he's going with it, meaning that he's able to now get off his jump points and being able to then deliver the ball. As a smaller quarterback, being able to deliver the ball like off kilter around the offensive line. So it's not like he's he's not only forcing the ball earlier on this season, but he was at points in the pocket where he wasn't comfortable at all firing the football. And that's where he made mistakes. That's where he was underhanding the ball. His accuracy wasn't there. What I've noticed the last couple of weeks is that he's now been able to, you know, Canales is able to get him a little bit more off, you know, off your standard passing point for a quarterback, where now it's like he's maneuvering with the offensive line versus just chucking a football or just getting a timing route going. He's not only been smarter with the football, but he's been allowing the defenses to work around what he's looking to do. And Adam Thielen has been the biggest beneficiary of the situation. And the schedule speaks for itself down the stretch for Thielen. Gets Dallas this week. Dallas is just saw what they did to Jamar Chase did to them. Semifinal matchup against Arizona and then the Bucks. So the Bucks have been, you know, for most championship weeks for everybody. Unless you're playing whack ass week 18, which you should not be. But even then, he gets a matchup against Atlanta. So the schedule, I think Adam Thielen can be one of these guys down the stretch. We're similar for the first half of last year where we were like, what the hell is this Adam Thielen guy doing? Like, he's supposed to be older, this. He could literally be a guy down the stretch that could be a fantasy playoff hero. So this is the part where I ask you, Johnny, if you have any, you guessed it, final thoughts.
Oh man, my final thoughts are everybody that's watching, man. If you're in the playoffs, man, like we root for you. I think like one of the things like I always think about, like, as far as like getting to the playoffs, is just thinking about it now. Like, you're in a place where now it's obviously it's one and done, but like getting into a DFS mindset and thinking like it's okay to maybe get comfortable, maybe drop players that like you wouldn't normally drop during a season long, during the season long, marathon, if you will, right? So just be comfortable in understanding that, and be comfortable in understanding and knowing that like there are going to be players on people's rosters, to like what we talked about, that are going to be heroes that have been zeros all year long for you, or that just haven't delivered. So I think just getting into that space, being comfortable, like we talked about, like a lot of people tonight Like we talked about Jalen McMillan. We talked about him. We talked about Christian Watson. Like Rico Dowell is somebody that maybe you haven't been playing over the last handful of weeks that maybe you need to start playing. Maybe you need to start thinking about. Jameis Winston is a guy that, maybe you played him last week and it wasn't necessarily like great for you, but like you need to get comfortable with those things. The tight end position, streaming defenses. So just like, man, hey man, set your, get your waiver set for tonight and be ready to get up and grind it out in the morning, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever. Because this is what we put all the time in for, man. Like we're here now. We're here at the playoffs. So like, and if you got to buy, then be smart and go ahead and start looking ahead, man, and start picking up players for next week based off of matchups and things like that. Give yourself the opportunity, man. Those are my final thoughts here on this playoff edition of the Fantasy Football Show.
Did you just spit fire?
I did.
All right, yeah.
I did. Bars, baby, bars. I don't even want to tell you what I got down here in this box, man. You'll be like, what?
The hell, this box. This box. All right. Final thoughts for me is, look, we've been preparing for this time all year long, right? They say leave everything on the field. We gotta leave everything on the field, right? Like Johnny was saying, we talked about some guys that we definitely believe in coming down the stretch. And those are it. So with that being said, we'll consistently look out for things for you. And we are just in a great time of the year. If you're in the playoffs, if you're not, it's better like next year. Make sure you're paying attention to our channel. So you can make sure you can get there in more of your leagues this upcoming, next season. But I'll say this, like, you got to keep grinding. Like Johnny just talked about, if you're on a bye this week, there's no letting up here. There's no like I'm taking my foot off the gas pedal. You gotta keep playing like you are playing Sunday. You gotta keep your rhythm going. Because once you start taking your foot off the gas pedal a little bit, then you start feeling like, oh man, now like I'm not in the same rhythm. I'm not looking at the same information, stuff like that. Keep your head into it. And keep on looking at the waiver wire, people, because this is the time of the year where people are going to make some dumb mistakes. People are going to drop some guys, whatever. Especially if you're in leagues where they're playing for losers' punishment. So there's going to be guys where you're dropping for so-and-so, and it's like, oh boy, I already know someone that's going to be, paying the piper when it comes to losers' punishment. So it's always fun to do that. But make sure you're not ever one of those teams, because again, 9 for 9 in all my leagues playing, making the postseason. So, but other than that, we appreciate you guys. If you guys still have any questions, feel free to come check us out this Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, where we got week 15, the picks, the bets, the props show, where we'll go over not only any last minute questions for you guys for the upcoming week, any last minute waiver questions you guys got, and also questions in regards to DFS, stuff like that. We got you covered. That being said, me, Johnny, we out of here. We'll see you guys on Sunday. Peace.